Welcome, everyone, to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and very, very pleased to have my guest today. He's a returning guest, had him on earlier this year from Fans in Motion, the only podcast you didn't know or that you didn't know that you needed, especially if you're a Night Ranger fan. Uh, Josh Weaver. Josh has impeccable taste in books and in
Hey,
shirts, as it turns
yeah.
out. How are you doing,
You
Josh?
interrupted my reading time
I
here.
am so sorry. What page are you on?
Well, I'm on page 130, but I'm just doing the pictures. There's a lot of words too, and I'm skipping the words at the moment.
That's why I made sure to put a lot of pictures in that book for my own sake too. Just
Yeah. But
yeah,
hey, that's a good intro. Happy to be back. This is time number two.
yeah. I had you on in the spring, not too long after I discovered Fans in Motion, which I've really enjoyed. It's definitely reignited my Night Ranger fandom, and two very important things have happened since the last time I had Josh on. Number one, I finally got to see the band, first time ever seeing Night Ranger. Thanks in part to Mr. Weaver here, setting us up, and saw them in Guilford, New Hampshire, and they were amazing. Also did the meet and greet and got a little picture snapped with them, and that was super cool. The other thing, which is what we're here to talk about, is they've got a new album to talk about. Well, a new live album, and it's a very good one. Been out for a little while now. 40th anniversary, 40 years with the contemporary Youth Orchestra. And this is a very special release for a lot of reasons, Josh. And I should mention, too, that we were going to have a third guest on tonight, kind of the man of honor, Night Ranger tour manager Ed Repepe, who I met very briefly because he took my phone and took my picture with the band in Guilford. But Ed, for very, very good reason, couldn't make it tonight. He's doing good things. But yeah, this is a very special album for Ed. So I'm gonna let Josh take it away. This has been recorded and kind of what in the can for a while before it was released. How did
Well,
what was the timeline between the idea for the show and the album coming out?
yeah. So, I mean, I think from like the recording from the show. I think the show was actually like November 9th, 2022. And then the record came out like October 17th of this year. So about 11-month turnaround from the actual show to the actual release. But I mean, when you go to the Contemporary Youth Orchestra, I'm not entirely sure of the history, but I know it's an organization that's been around for a while. They're out of Cleveland. It's basically school children from like the ages of I don't know, like 11 to 18. And it's an organization that they have, and many artists have played with them. I think Brian Adams, Tommy Shaw released a record with them. Styx did a record with them. So, the Contemporary Youth Orchestra out of Cleveland's got a, pretty good history of recording with artists that we all enjoy. Um, how Night Ranger became involved is, another kind of story where you'd mentioned earlier Ed Repepe, which is um, Night Ranger's tour manager. He's from Cleveland as well, and his brother unfortunately was killed in an auto accident. I think in 2020. I think that was the year, and in 2021 they did a memorial concert in Cleveland for his brother. Danny Repepe Memorial Concert, and Night Ranger headlined, and they had like an ACDC tribute band, and they had a whole bunch of different businesses, local businesses that contributed, and they had silent auctions, and they raised money for canine units, police canine units throughout the county. So that was a big success. They were able to purchase 5 dogs, and it was a good thing. Memorialize his brother, and they decided to do one more, which was the show that they were looking at doing in 2022. And so, Ed, from what he told us is he had that idea of Night Ranger being with the Contemporary Youth Orchestra, and he presented it to the guys, and they all were excited about the idea, and they got in touch with the organization. And so probably I would say that would have been January of 22. And, throughout those months, they slowly progressed into working towards the show. We just did an episode with Ed for the Fans of Motion um, podcast. We just released it last week. So if you want like the details, that's where, after you
Yes,
listen to this
absolutely. Yeah,
entire episode, you
yeah.
can get the details there. Ed talks about it. I'm kind of just paraphrasing, but it took time for them to decide what songs they want to do. And then, they've got to write the orchestra charts to them. So from January, really through September, it was just, you know, them get the orchestra getting the charts, writing the charts. They would perform some of it, videotape it, send it to the band. The band would interact. Well, let's put this here, or bring that up, or instead of playing that part, why don't you play the chorus over that? And so they would do a lot of back and forth there until about the week of the show when they actually had some time to rehearse.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to suggest that, and if I'm on the ball, I'll link your episode because yeah, Ed goes into a lot of detail about it,
Mm.
and yeah. So the end result is a CD, DVD, Blu-ray, vinyl. How name your poison, name how you get it. But I would definitely recommend getting somewhere not only that you can listen to it, but somehow that you can watch it as well. A lot of my favorite bands have done orchestral albums. I'm thinking of Metallica and Kiss, and last year, or I guess earlier this year, Def Leppard. And be quite honest with you, the results were mixed. Doesn't always work. Now, and I'm not just saying this because this is the episode, but I think that Night Ranger's music lends itself really, really well to the orchestral treatment. And I think one of the reasons is that you're dealing with a band that's got a lot of keyboards. So basically, you can adapt those arrangements. There's just more. It just seems like there's more
Yeah.
melodic content to play
Well,
with
I
it.
think I think right there what you just said is even yes, there's a lot of keyboards, but you could there's even the guitar solos are so melodic,
Yeah.
and it's easy just to take those melodies, like Sister Christian, at the very beginning of that where it's dun 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 dun. If you listen, the orchestra in the background is playing the chorus over that.
Yes.
So I think more of what you said, yes, keyboards, but there's a lot of, Night Ranger's a melodic hard rock
Yeah.
band. So there's, you can take, it's different when you got Metallica and it's just, not that Metallica doesn't have some melody to it, but there's a lot of just, chugging
It's a
along.
it's a guitar band. It's
Mhm,
guitar based and it's riff based.
mhm.
And yeah, some of the songs work better than others. I, I'm a huge Def Leppard fan. I was very, very, very disappointed with that Drastic Symphonies that came out earlier this year. But this is a winner. And yeah, you mentioned parts where they're augmenting the arrangements that are already there. But that's a good point that you bring up. Parts had to be written that didn't exist before. The songs existed, but when Jack and Brad and Jeff and Fitz and Kelly, when they were writing those songs starting back in '82, they weren't scoring. They were writing as a 5-piece rock band. So extra parts had to be added because it's not enough to just copy what the guitars or the keyboards or the vocals are doing. There's a lot of cool added stuff, but uh, you know, if anybody's wondering what it sounds like, just think if you're a big Night Ranger fan, think of how 4 in the Morning starts out with those synthesized strings. Dun, dun, like, well, why not have actual strings playing them? It works so well. And I got to say, as watching several episodes of Fans in Motion, it's kind of weird to hear your theme, the orchestral version of Rockin' America, start this album off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DVD, there's some cool footage of the band talking about how it came together. I, I just think it really, really, really works well and lends itself. Their music lends itself. If I had any complaint with this at all, Josh, I just wish that it was longer. I wish there were more songs.
Yeah. So, a few things. I agree with you with orchestra records. I'm not a big fan of those. I mean, not that I'm against them or anything. It's just not something I usually go and pull out and listen to. Um, And then the orchestra, we're talking about the scoring. There's 80 members of that orchestra, 80 different, children, young adults playing music. So a lot going on there. Uh, and then when you're talking about the set, yes. Now the set was longer. I was actually at the show in November of last year, and they played. Now there's, I think, what, 10 tracks on the
There's
record.
13 tracks,
Okay.
including High Enough.
All right. So yeah, so there's 12 tracks on the CD. Um, and then if you get the Japanese bonus CD, you get High Enough. Or on the US version, they do have High Enough on the DVD. So there was
Yes.
those songs, and then they played three songs without the orchestra that were not included on the record. I think Rumors, Breakout, and Secret of My Success. And I think it was more, well, why couldn't the orchestra play those? I think it was more probably to put breaks in between,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
songs. Um,
I would think Rumors in the Air would be perfect for an orchestra to play
yeah,
that beginning section.
I mean, there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
but also it could be. I mean, and I'll know more. I'm actually interviewing the conductor later on this week, so those are things that maybe they can shed light on why those didn't get picked. And I did an interview. I got it in the can to be released with Brian Isley. He's the one that his company filmed the the show, which is another thing about this. If you watch the DVD, or I definitely recommend the Blu-ray. It's fantastic
Yeah.
how they filmed this. I mean, there's
Very well filmed, very well edited. Everything's crystal clear,
I
and
think they
the cuts
yeah
seem to come just where they're just on the people that you want to see at particular times.
they had, I think, 22 cameras. So I mean, they had some that were stationary and some that were like GoPros in the crowd. And so definitely, it's definitely very well filmed. But one of the things Brian pointed out to us was they, not that it hindered anything, but some of the stuff they had to do was they had to know the choreography of the band, where what who's playing what and where they're at, so they know ahead of time. Well, what do we want to film here?
Yeah.
If Jack always goes up on the riser during this song,
Yeah.
we want that. And so I think that probably played a little bit into, well, why isn't there any deep tracks? Well, that I think also you got to think, Frontiers, they don't want deep tracks. They want hits. They want, what
Yeah.
that is. Um, I mean, you did get, I mean, the record alone is worth it for Call My Name.
Oh, I know that seems to be, and by the way, folks, if you're a Night Ranger fan, Fans in Motion, you got to check it out.
Listen,
Fansinmotion.com.
also, if you're a fan of Tim, go
Yeah.
to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, number one podcast out there.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, you got to check out Fans in Motion. You got to follow them on Facebook. Very active group on Facebook. A lot of
We're
great people. A lot
nearing
of, yeah,
10,000
yeah.
people.
A lot of great people on there. You might be thinking, really, there's that? And listen, yeah, I mean, I was a huge Night Ranger fan for years, and it's like, these are my people, to quote Paul
Yeah,
Stanley.
we
But yeah, and where I'm getting at with this is that the consensus seems to be, and I'm not disagreeing. Call My Name is definitely uh, one of the standouts. It's one of the best tracks on here. I think, I don't know. I've always thought it was a really cool song. The fact that it's like the only ballad on Dawn Patrol, and it was never released as a single, as far as I know. Um,
it was a
and
B
it,
side, I think, for
yeah,
one of
which
them.
is, and it's kind of a darker ballad. It's really cool. So I've always really liked the song. It's very dramatic. It lends itself very well to the orchestration. And yeah, I'm definitely with everybody saying that it's probably the highlight. It's the one that, yeah,
But
that's just really, really well done.
both audio and visual. So like the audio, if you just got this, listen to the CD, one, it's a great song to begin with. It was always my favorite Night Ranger song, and then Brent, one of the co-hosts on the page, or on the podcast, it was always his favorite as well. One of the few things we agree on. And so it's never been on a live record. Night Rangers had live in Japan,
Right.
Rockin' Japan '97. They had the
The
live
Chicago
record,
one.
yeah, from
Yeah.
2017,
Yeah.
35 years in a night.
Yeah.
Um, and it was never on any of those records. So this is the first time, and the orchestra really, I
Yeah.
mean, that makes that song even better. And then if you see it on the DVD or the Blu-ray, the visuals they got going with it, Jack out there with the fog and the graphics behind him, then the symphony is just it's one of those moments where just everything kind of comes together
Brad
perfectly.
and Carey trading off solos at the end, which is very cool, different from the album arrangement. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. From Frontier's point of view, I get it. The casual fan might pick this up and go, oh, it's got Rock in America. It's good 4 in the morning, Sentimental Street, goodbye. When you close your eyes, don't tell me you love me, Sister Christian. Or, you know, the
Mhm.
Japanese version. Oh, it's got High Enough on it too. Yeah. It's got the hits. But, they got the song Night Ranger on here with the extended drum solo, which I had the pleasure of seeing live in Guilford. I was waiting for Kelly to come out at the end because in Guilford, he probably does this most nights, but at the end of it all, after everybody had their turn, hitting the drums, he said, "We make one good drummer, don't we?" That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Call
Yep.
My Name. I mean, even when you had Eric Levy on to discuss his favorite fits, keyboard riffs, just him starting to play that one little part. Oh man, I love that song.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess what we're saying here is if you're, yes, there's no quote unquote, there's no studio material on here, but if you're a Night Ranger fan, you still want this and you want to get it audio and video if you can.
Mhm. And like I said, I also do, like, all the social media for Night Ranger and Jack, Brad, Kelly, Carrie, Eric, and um, so I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback from all their posts, and those guys are all excited about the record, and even leading up to the recording. I know they were looking forward to doing this with a symphony. I mean, it's something, there's not very many firsts going into your fourth
Yeah.
decade, and this was something that they were able to do. And um, so I know they were looking forward to the show. And then with this release, I know they were all very pleased with how it turned out. And then you had Access TV playing it last month, and then they just did a full 90-minute showing of it um, this last weekend. So yeah, it's one of these things where like everything came together perfectly. The show went off perfectly. The product that's been released has been great. So yeah, fourth decade and going into
Not
the Night Ranger career, everything's going good.
not to mention they had a number one record out of this, number one classical
Classical crossover,
on Billboard. Yeah.
one of the last one of the last check marks, I guess, they needed to get off the list.
Yeah.
First person I heard that from was Jack. He sent me a, screenshot of it, and I was like, "Well, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Let's get that up on the socials."
Yeah, and it should be mentioned, like Josh said. I mean, their social media presence, I think, has only improved since because they've got a dedicated fan that's that knows about the band and knows what the fans want to see because he's a fan himself.
And listen,
Um,
it's the band is they are doing inputs with that just as well. I mean, obviously, if there's a show going on sale, it's not, and it's like that with every band. It's not, if there's a show going on sale for Metallica, Lars isn't on the Metallica webpage
right.
going, buy tickets. But I'll get a picture from Jack and let's use this. And all right, give me a blurb, you know, put the lyrics to Come Again or something, or,
Yeah.
or he'll send a picture, Tacoma was fun last night, great, whatever. So, and of course I'll make some hashtags and, do whatever, but, it's, the band is really into it and all their socials. And if you're on LinkedIn, go follow Brad. I mean, Brad is very active on LinkedIn and we'll put something together and put it on LinkedIn, and then we just basically put it over on the Instagram and the Facebook. So yeah, Night Ranger's got a good thing going here with the new release and all their socials and everything else.
And they've been on, they've been on a roll, I think, for the last over 10 years now.
Yeah.
All four of those albums they've done have all been really, really, really strong albums. And it seems like they're hitting a stride. And I have to say, as a longtime fan, and a fan of a lot of these classic bands, I mean, these guys are in their 60s and some of them hit 70 or about to. Every song on this album, they're all in the original key. There's no down tuning. Then they didn't drop two steps to accommodate vocals. They're all in the original keys or very close to the original keys that they were recorded in. And these guys, Jack and Kelly, still sing really, really, really well. And like you said, for the crew to have an idea of the choreography, anyone who's seen Night Ranger in concert knows Jack's perpetual motion up there.
Yeah.
Like that guy moves around.
Well, it's always like, what pictures did you get last night? And it's like I'll go through them, and I got three. And he's like, that's all you got, like good ones? It's like, dude, like,
You got like
it's like,
his elbow or part of
yeah, it's like,
the headstock on the bass and
unless I got a professional $5,000 camera taking so many clicks a second,
yeah,
you know, slow down. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean the band. I mean, you're very hard pressed to anyone who's seen them live within the last few years or ever that have left that show going, that wasn't that good.
Yeah, I
Most
mean,
99.9%, you go see Night Ranger, you're already looking at when do you get to see them again.
absolutely. I waited however many years to see them earlier this year, and my only complaint was that it wasn't a headline set, but I still got to see them, and they were awesome.
Mhm.
And that's nothing against Brett, who headlined, but when Night Ranger came on stage, I'm like, finally, I get to, here's one band I never thought I'd ever see, and yeah, they were fantastic. And getting back to to this, when you're watching it, Brad also looks like he's having a blast up there.
Yeah,
I mean,
he,
they all do, but he moves around almost as much as Jack, and plays to the crowd, and it's just a really, really great performance.
I think Brad's always a little happy when there's a camera on him too. But yeah, I mean, there's uh, you're playing in a rock band with a 80 piece orchestra. Um, how can you not be having fun up there? So you had the vinyl. Did you get the red copy?
Well, see, I'm one of those oddballs, and people that watch the show know I never, because I don't really have a good record player. I never opened my vinyl, Josh, so I don't actually know
You
what I've got.
you are a lot like Brent.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's I've seen that on there. I said, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he's got.
So
So I
down
actually don't know which version I've got.
if it does not say red vinyl on the barcode,
It doesn't. No.
so there were only 1,000 copies of that pressed.
Yeah,
And they were
It's a different number on the barcode too. I can
and
see.
they were all, other than that, everything's the same
Yeah,
except for the color. But they were only sold on Talk Shop Live, which is like an online retailer.
yeah.
Jack was on there, and they had like the color vinyl. Then they had autograph. There's supposed to be an insert, but it was like a laser print. I won't get into that. Um, but so unless they do something else right now, these are all sold out. But I know you like to show all the different variations.
Oh
So
yes.
there's the red vinyl. Everything else is the same. The labels are the same. Just the different color variant.
Geez, I can
So
even see myself in it. That's how smooth it is.
so in the States, you had the black vinyl, you had the red vinyl, you got that CD, DVD digipack that you
Yeah,
just showed.
yeah.
Um,
The only reason I got the DVD as opposed to the Blu-ray, Josh, is so I can pop it into my laptop when I'm working or
and I
watch it in
thought
my
I had
music
the
room.
thought I had the Blu-ray down here, but I guess I don't. It must be upstairs. But just imagine a Blu-ray case with this.
Yes, yeah. Picture
There.
in your mind, yeah, the
Um,
blue, yeah.
yeah. So but I highly recommend getting the Blu-ray. I mean, the DVD is great, but it just goes another level beyond with the Blu-ray. Then in Japan, you got a few different options. One is you have the CD in the case.
Yeah.
That's not the that's this is the autographed book that you could buy with the Talk Shop Live. What do we got here? All right, so here is this would have been the Japanese release. So it was just a CD,
Okay, so just in a regular old jewel case, but it also has high enough.
but it does have high enough, the bonus track, the audio
Yeah.
version, where the US version has high enough, but it's just the video
Yeah.
version.
In between
Yeah.
Night Ranger the song and Goodbye
And I think we determined, if you want to be a really big nerd, that this photo on the back of the Obi strip,
is
that's
different.
that's the only time you see that photo, that it's not actually.
Oh,
There's one that looks similar in the book, but I don't think, I think we determined that it was not the same. So you got that. Um, and I think it comes with, I should have had this better organized. Um, right
I
here.
never have anything organized, so don't worry about it.
So it comes with the Japanese booklet. So there's nothing crazy. Just
Yeah. Anyone who's ever ordered Japanese imports recognizes the extra booklets in there and the Obi strip. And
now they also have a Blu-ray CD combo. I did not get that because I had the Blu-ray, here in the States, but they did have a DVD CD combo, which I went ahead and got. So it's got the bigger case, unlike the Blu-ray.
right.
Um, it's got the Obi strip. Like I said, the Blu-ray comes in that traditional smaller, blue case. So there's the Obi strip, DVD case, and then you got the CD and the DVD. And the booklet um, comes with a unique booklet. So here's a CD booklet, here's the DVD booklet, so you can see that, the size wise, it's a little different. There's the back photo, kind of a collage, but in different order from what's in the vinyl.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, everything's about the same, just a different size booklet. Um, but yeah, there you go. If you look closely, you can see Night Ranger thanks Josh, Andy, and Brent from Fans of
Oh
Motion.
yes.
So
Yeah.
we are big time now.
I mean, think about that, Josh, when I had you on before, you were talking about how you first got into Night Ranger. Did you ever think you'd be end up in the credits to one of their albums?
Oh yeah, I figured they'd
Yeah.
smarten up
It was all
eventually.
yeah, we figured it was just a matter of time, right?
Now we did now eventually when I first started working with the group, the first person I worked with was Kelly. I started just doing his socials. Me and him, he jumped on the podcast and we did some interviews with him and we got to be friendly and and so we started talking. It's like, yeah, I'll help you with your social. So I helped Kelly, which eventually Night Ranger saw and asked if I'd help them. Uh, Kelly thanked us in, it was Josh Weaver and Fans in Motion um, on the ATBPO record. Um, and that was very cool. It was cool to see that. And, but we had just started out. So, they didn't realize, well, it's me, Andy, Brent. And
Right.
so this one, they were able to get those guys in there like they should have been. And yeah, it's definitely a good feeling to see, your name in there with 100 other people.
And not only that, but I mean, your name's inside of, something that they can listen to. You can just take home, listen to, and be proud of, and just say, yeah, this is
Mhm.
the band I work with, and they're still putting out, quality product. If you want to, I don't want to, I'm not saying it's product, but you know what I mean. They're
Yeah.
putting out quality releases. And yeah, you've had Kelly on the show, you've had Eric on quite a few times. You had Gary Moon on. I love that episode because I'm a
Mhm.
huge fan of the Mojo album. I mean, obviously, you want to get Jack and Brad on eventually. Are there any other like I could say holy grail guests that you'd really really like to get on and talk to that were
Um,
somehow affiliated with the
I
Night
always
Ranger?
I always said probably the person that has the best story uh is Molly, Jack's wife.
Yeah.
They were married in 76, so she
Wow.
was there before Jack was Jack. Um, she saw the Rubicon years, and then the story of, I'm married to a rock star. It's on MTV all the time, but I got two kids at home and she's raising them, and they're still married 46 years later. I mean,
Pretty
that,
amazing. Yeah.
right there is
And correct me if I'm wrong, but James manages them, right? Like he's
correct.
so
So James is their manager, and their other son's a successful artist. Look up Colin Blades on Instagram. Very cool work. So she would be one. Jack and Brad, we always talk about coming on the show, and um, I think it's I don't know. I think sometimes it's a little too close to home. It's different than just going on and talking about Sister Christian and the
right.
new record coming up, and then you got me, who I've known them for God going on 3 or 4 years now, and I know everything about them, so they can't really you know, BS and answer and stuff like that. So, but we'll get them on. I'm getting enough blackmail on them to where, you know, we'll be playing the whole Man in Motion record before
It
you
would
know
be
it.
advisable if you would come on my
Um,
show. Yeah.
but some of the Rubicon guys, I mean, I had Greg Eckler, who was the drummer for Rubicon. He was one of our very first,
Yeah.
who sadly passed away maybe 6 months after that. So it's, we got his story, kind of in print or whatever you want, so to say. But Jerry Martini, I've talked to Jerry Martini, who was the horn player in Sly and the Family Stone.
And that's a story unto itself, right?
And yeah, definitely. Greg Eckler told us some great stories off the record about those years, because Greg played a little bit with Sly and stuff. But uh, we talked to Jerry some, and Jerry's, he's had some health issues. I think he's doing okay now. I probably need to reach back out to him, but he's one. But yeah, off the top of my head, probably Jerry,
What
Molly.
about Tommy Shaw? That he I think he'd be an interesting guy to talk to for a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
reasons. I mean, they've
um,
not damn Yankees and the Shaw Blade stuff. Not to mention, he's recorded with the orchestra
yeah,
twice.
definitely. I'm a big Tommy Shaw fan. Obviously love to get Tommy on there, and hell, I'd be talking about probably Seven Deadly Sins, that solo
Yeah,
record, because I thought that was a fantastic record. Plus Shaw Blades, that hallucination record.
yeah.
Um, we've we've ranked that on the episode and stuff, and but Tommy Shaw's up there. I think, like I said, in the Night Ranger world, you'd have Molly, probably Jerry Martini. I think Ron Nevison would be a good guy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
uh, to talk to produce the Two Damn Yankees records,
yeah. And
uh,
Neverland.
and Neverland.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Um,
true because Pat Glasser passed away, and so did Keith Olson.
yep. So the only
So
one still produced the record is what, Kevin Elson,
yeah,
who
yeah.
did
Big
Big Life.
Life and David
Lot.
Prater, who produced Mojo.
Mhm. Yep.
It's funny you meant just while I think of it, Josh, you'll get a kick out of this when you mentioned Jack being in Rubicon. My good buddy Jax, who's a frequent co-host on this show, I've kind of beaten him down to the point where he likes Night Ranger. I gave him a Midnight Madness cassette because I mean he was like a more of a hardcore metal guy, right? And I'm like, yeah, listen to these guys. They make melodies like nobody else, and they got great guitar work. So he's getting into the band. So he um he just recently found a copy of Midnight Madness on vinyl, and he adds it to his collection. And he sent me this thing the other day. He said, "Look at the picture they used for Jack Blades on Discogs, and it's a picture of him from Rubicon days with the big glasses." I said, "Oh yeah, I got to tell you about that." So I sent him a picture of the whole band. I said, "Jack and Brad were in this band." I said, "Just retool your expectations before you go to listen to them. It doesn't sound anything like Night Ranger, even though it's got Jack and Brad."
Yeah,
But he
it's a
said,
lot.
"Yeah, what? See, so where'd this picture come from?"
A lot of it's basically white funk, late 70s, a lot of cocaine probably involved. But um Brad managed to look cool. Jack, I mean, everybody was looking like that back then with the big Elton John's,
Yeah,
glasses and everything. But hey, I always tell people go dig out pictures of yourself from
Oh yeah.
1982, and
Well,
I'm
you've got my book. You've seen some pictures of me, so I can't say anything.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kevin Elson as from Big Life, he's the only like really producer from that classic era
Yeah.
that's still alive. A lot of people don't know he was on the Leonard Skinner plane that
Yeah, he was their sound guy,
he
which
was their sound guy, and he basically Street Survivors. I forget who produced it,
I think it was Rodney Mills.
and whoever produced it, they did not like the production. So basically, Kevin went back in and redid
Remixed
it
or yeah.
without credit, and
Right.
that's what they released. And then he was, like I said, their sound, like you said, their sound guy, and he was on that plane that crashed. So it's one of those things a lot of people don't. Now Nevison was actually supposed to produce the Big Life record, but pulled out at the very end. So that comes from a interview from, I think, some song lyric
Song
magazine.
hits or
Yeah,
one of
something like
those. Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that's interesting because he would produce Damn Yankees and then he would produce Neverland. Um, I mean, I suppose David Foster produced the one song, "Secret of My
Correct.
Success," but
Well,
yeah.
before I forget, Alan Fitzgerald's number one guy that we want to
It'd
get.
be great to talk to Fitz or Jeff.
Uh, yeah,
If
I
he
mean, I
would.
would obviously would talk to Jeff, but there's interviews out there with Jeff. There's
Yeah,
hardly any.
Fitz. I talked to Fitz about Montrose and playing with Sammy, and yeah,
If you ever get a chance, go back. If you haven't yet, but if you're out there listening, we talked. One of our first guests was David Lauser,
yep. Sammy's
Sammy
longtime
Hagar's
drummer.
drummer.
Yep,
Sammy and David were friends before Sammy was Sammy Hagar.
yep,
Or Montrose. They grew up
yep,
together, but they were from the same area as Fitz, so they knew Fitz in the late '60s. He shares some great stories with Fitz, but Fitz is just this. I mean, that Night Ranger sound, a lot of that's Fitz. A lot of the stuff you hear on those classic records that you think are guitars are actually keyboards.
yeah,
A lot of times you don't really realize listening to it what you're listening to is actually Fitz. Fitz had some great co-writes,
yeah.
co-written When You Close Your Eyes. Um, so Fitz would be number one. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
he's not. He seems to be more of a not maybe not a recluse, but he's not a guy that's done a million interviews. So um,
yeah,
he's obviously not seeking to do them.
he's dropped off the radar. So
Yeah.
Fitz, if you're out there, call
Yes.
me.
I'll talk to you too. Yeah, I mean, all the Bay Area scene, I mean, Fitz played on the second Montrose album, Paper Money, because I mean, Bill Church, the Electric Church, was the first one on there. So Fitz played bass and keyboards. He was basically Sammy's solo band at first was Montrose without Ronnie Montrose. And I have to mention because they're one of my favorite bands ever. You talked to John Nyman of the Mighty Y&T, so that's another Bay Area connection. And all of these bands, we go back and you see all these old ads of these bands that toured together, and it's like, man, if I could just get the Wayback Machine, that's a double bill I'd like to see.
I mean,
So yeah,
another thing you don't, you think back to that era, you talk about Nyman, and I've become pretty good friends with Nyman. He's got, he was a couple years younger than Meniketti and
Leonard or yeah,
Leonard Hayes. So he would ride his bike and go watch them practice.
yeah,
And he grew up with those guys. And um, so you had Nyman, you had Y&T, who were already somewhat established by the mid '70s, late '70s. But you had John Nyman and Eric Martin from Mr.
yep,
Big. They had a band 415, which eventually became the Eric Martin band. You had bands like Clover, and what was the other band?
right,
But
right,
Clover, and there was another band that was Huey Lewis and the News,
yep, yep.
out there, and
And
they
not to
eventually
mention that the Eric Martin band drummer was Troy Luccketta, who went on to
correct.
Tesla.
Yep.
So
So and like some stuff out there if you're an Eric Martin fan, they are releasing the Eric Martin record Sucker for a Pretty Face.
yep,
But it's all alternate versions of the songs that they had in the can. So I think that's coming out on Metallic Blue Records next month. So if you're, big into the Eric Martin band or just Eric Martin in general. There's that new release that's coming out. But yeah, a lot of stuff that was coming out from the Bay Area then. I mean, obviously you already had Journey and Grateful Dead and Starship and
Yeah.
all those. But yeah, if we could time travel back, man, that's one of the
There's
places.
all kinds of ties too. I mean, even like talk about Jack Blades in his Rubicon days. I mean, I've read in more recent years, Rob Trujillo from Metallica talks about seeing Rubicon, I think at the with Texas Jam or Day on the Green or one of those big festivals, and Jack doing the slap bass, which of course he doesn't do a lot of in Night Ranger, but being
Mhm.
influenced by that to play bass, which you'd never equate those two worlds. But yeah,
Yeah.
once I mean, if you're into the music minutia like a lot of us are, you just go down the rabbit hole after the rabbit hole after the rabbit hole. But yeah, this, I mean, and it's I know that you've talked about this. When you and Brent and Andy started, you're like, how many episodes can we get out of this? Who can we talk to? It turns out there's a lot of people you can talk to. Any band that's been around 40 years, there's going to be peripheral people
Mhm.
that you can talk to. So, but yeah, I would agree. Fitz would be a good get. But and if anybody can do it, it's you guys.
We I might have to take a week off work and do some dive detective stuff and show up on his front yard and tell him hey man, you don't have a choice. But
Security.
yeah. But I was fortunate enough to see Night Ranger when they got back together in '96 with Fitz a couple times, and I was able to talk to him. And um so I mean I had moments with him, and where I asked probably questions I would never ask. I was what, 19, 18 when I met him. And well, why did you leave Night Ranger? Straight up, he would tell
Yeah.
me, you know where it was always musical differences. Well, he was starting a family and they were doing a home birth, and there were some difficulties. And so he was pretty straight forward with some of those answers. So I at least got to at least talk to him back in the 90s. But definitely a guy that's kind of fell off the radar. The last we've really seen him was um shoot
Was Springsteen, wasn't it?
that was like 2007, 2008. Springsteen did maybe a little earlier than that, 2005. Springsteen did an acoustic tour. So it was just him on stage, and then off stage, Fitz played some keyboards and some stuff like that off to the side. So that I want to say maybe he did an Alliance record right after that, which
Oh, right.
Alliance was a band that had Gary Peel from Boston,
Boston
Sammy's
and
old band,
yeah.
David Lauser from Sammy's band, and it had Robert Berry, who played with replaced what
So it was
um,
kind of like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He was the
um,
lake, I guess.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
They called the record Three or something like that, but big in
Yeah.
the prog world. And then Fitz, and the last record they released, which would have been like 2019-ish, Fitz wasn't on that record. So, like I said, I've taught from what everything I've heard, he's kind of just went into a retirement mode, and he's earned it, I guess. But like I said, we'd always like to talk to him.
He'd have a lot of support. I mean, even, like you said, how much his parts factor in. I highly recommend, it's tough getting to a podcast when there's so many episodes. But if I could give you a pointer for fans in motion, you definitely want to watch the one that Eric was on talking about his favorite, like 13
Yeah, we
fits.
think we favorite
Yeah.
favorite. I don't know where we came up with that number, and we he didn't rank them like in order, but it's just his 13 favorite, and it's really cool. It's cool to hear the beginning of 4 in the morning just by itself,
Yeah.
right?
Or the verses of Touch of Madness where you might
Yeah,
think there
the
aren't even
spooky.
any keyboards, but there are. And
Yeah.
once then you hear the song, go, well, yeah, of course they're there. I hear them every time, but a lot of these
Call
things just go by. It's just there's just a lot of cool stuff. And
Eric calls those like the spooky sounds, and now whenever I hear Touch of Madness, that's all I hear. And if you get the new remasters from Rock Candy, all that stuff is just amplified, so you can definitely hear it now if you've got those copies.
I've definitely got to get. I've got old. My CDs are old MCA ones. They're they're I got to crank them up. They're very quiet. So
Mhm.
yeah, I've got to fix that. And plus, Rock Candy remasters are always worth getting for the liner notes and
Yeah.
just the general care they put into them. I only hope that they put out, Seven Wishes, Big Life, and we get good CD versions of the Girls All Like It and Wild and Innocent Youth, just finally to get those on a CD somewhere. But
Yes, it would be nice. But the rock candy copies, yes, they are definitely worth it. But you can even just go grab your record or your CD right now and just go put in Touch of Madness. And during the verses, just
yeah,
listen and you'll hear these keyboards back there and just doing some cool stuff.
yep,
Rumors in the Air, as much as Brad shreds on that song, Fitz is all over that song
yep,
too.
yep.
I mean, think about coming out of the chorus, that all that, yeah, that's
Yeah,
all Fitz, man.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so Fitz is the man.
yeah. Well, having said that, like I said before, the last four albums they've done have all been great. It's a solid lineup. But yeah, check them out. Definitely go see Night Ranger if they come anywhere close to you, and you'll be glad that you didn't have to drive. What is it, 6 hours like we did? But hey, not complaining because we got there. But so yeah, so Night Ranger, 40th
Yep.
anniversary, 40 years in a night with contemporary youth orchestra.
Yeah,
Josh
go get
Josh
this
Weaver has
too. Go
been
get this. Have you got this yet?
I've seen I lived, ate, and breathed that. And that's got some Night Ranger content in it as well, a little bit. If anybody doesn't know, if you're watching this channel, but if people are watching because of Josh, I understand that. Unspooled is a book for music collectors that you didn't know you needed. And it's about
There
eight
you
tracks
go.
that were made in the 1980s by the record clubs that were not available in stores. And that includes the first three Night Ranger albums. You might be thinking to yourself, Night Ranger on 8-track. Yes, it's a real thing. And I know that Josh has one of my holy grail 8 tracks that would be Dawn Patrol. I don't have that. I have
I do.
I
I don't know if I do or not.
don't you? Oh, I got
I don't know.
midnight.
I gotta go through and look.
I
I
think
know.
well, somebody does a Brant or Andy maybe one because
Um,
I'm pretty sure you held it up because it's weird that it's got the band name and the title are reversed. So Dawn Patrol is in big letters and Night Ranger's in the
I know
small
I got.
letters.
I know I got seven wishes. What's really weird is, you would think the farther into the 80s you got, the more rare those 8 tracks would be. But
Yeah, I think I know
um,
why. It's because of the Boardwalk Records.
yeah.
That's why I don't see Dawn Patrol on vinyl used nearly as much as I see the next two,
Mm,
because by that
yeah.
time they had a more solid label, and I
Yeah.
think that's the same reason why the 8-track is. But you know what, Dawn Patrol 2, that's also one of those ones that might have come out to retail. It might have,
Mm.
because you can
Well, you
get
would think though, if it came out to retail, there'd be more copies.
it's just how many would have been made, right? Like that album didn't even certify. It should
Yeah.
have, but it
So,
didn't.
but yeah, like
So
Seven Wishes, you'll see more Seven Wishes 8 tracks than you will
yeah, the newest
Midnight
of them,
Madness.
which
Yeah,
doesn't,
and
it kind of defies. Yeah, I paid a pretty penny for my Midnight Madness, but yeah. Anyway, we're
um,
getting off track, but
oh wait,
that's
we're right on track. Eight
well,
tracks.
we're still talking. Well, yeah, and we're talking about Night Ranger, so I guess we are.
So
So Josh, thank
yep,
you for coming on, and guys, check out Fans in Motion,
there you go,
and
guys. Everybody, check out Tim's Vinyl Confessions if you haven't already.
and so
Uh,
so Josh, I mean, on the last episode, you kind of talked about how it got started, but man, it's really taken on a life of its own. What can if someone's never if someone's a Night Ranger fan, it's like, okay, I'll check this out. What can they expect? You guys are also super serious all the time.
well, listen, if you're a Night Ranger fan, remember that video, Blind Melon, with the little bumblebee girl
Yes,
jumping
yeah,
around? She's by herself, right? That's how all Night Ranger fans seem to be. We love Night Ranger, but we're out there by ourselves. And all of a sudden at the end, right? She finds that little field and there's a whole bunch of other bumblebees. Hey, fans of motion, that's where all your bumblebees are. The Brad Gillis Seven Wishes bumblebee outfits. We're all there in those. Um, like I said, it's fans of motion. Go to Facebook, just type in fans of motion Night Ranger, click join. Help us get to 10K. We're at like our 100 away, but it is just your dedicated Night Ranger fans. Everybody loves the page or loves the band. And, we don't really do the drama thing. Just
nope,
listen,
it's
you
a good
can,
bunch of people, yeah.
We appreciate every lineup, every member,
Yep.
and there's we have the shirt which you got on there, and on the back it says we're always on tour because no matter where Night Ranger is, we have someone from the page there,
Yep.
and we've got instant photos, instant videos. So listen, if you're a hardcore Night Ranger fan, you're probably already there. If not, get your ass there. If you're a casual fan, just go to Make Me Happy, and you will suddenly become a hardcore fan because we will convince you that Night
You,
Ranger is the
yeah,
greatest thing in the world.
you'll very, very quickly realize there's an awful lot more to this band than the Motorin song. And that's what I like about going on the page. It's like you're in there with the hardcore fans that can say, so yeah, anyway, that solo in Penny, you know, you get right to the in deep stuff. I mean, we talk about feeding off the mojo. The Moon Band himself, Gary Moon's even been on commenting, which is really
We
cool
have
because
Gary Moon, Kelly's on there,
yeah,
Brad's on there. Now they don't comment a lot, but Kelly has definitely commented before. But yeah, Gary's on there, Eric's on there.
Eric's on there. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we Joel's on there. He
Yes, that's
uh
right.
doesn't really do a lot of Night Ranger stuff anymore, but he's commented, and we've had Joel on the
Yeah.
podcast, and I
Left on
still,
good terms.
yeah.
Yep.
So I still talk to Joel occasionally. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's Night Ranger Central.
Yep.
So
This is
get
where you need
get
to
there.
go. All right, Josh from Fans in Motion, thank you very much. Do not forget to get out there and buy yourself a copy of this. I just want to say, as a public service announcement, if you're in Canada like me, just go to Amazon and order it. I ordered directly from Frontiers. It took forever. It got stuck in customs. I ordered from Amazon, had it in 3 days. All right, Josh, thank you very much for coming on. Everybody, check out Fans in Motion. Start with Facebook and move on out. And I want to thank everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Final Confessions. We'll see you later.